we'll be muting everyone except for the hosts for a while. So what we need you to do is, if you want to, as you're entering, please feel free to rename yourself. You can put your preferred pronouns and identify your city or township or ward. I even see a former student. Hi, Stephanie.
Okay, quick, I don't know how to change my name. I know I did it once, but I can't figure it out now.
So what you do in a name is you go in, there's like when you click, you hover over your profile, your picture, and there's like 3 little dots at the top right-hand side. And then you click on those dots and it allows you to rename yourself.
Great, thank you.
Sure, absolutely. And that's how you can do that. So for people coming on, we want to know who's in the room, and you can rename yourselves. And if you, I see a former student of mine on here, and then our first day of class, hi Stephanie, and we would rename ourselves as well. We get to choose a name, but here we want you that you can put name on in your ward and or your township. So lovely. In your preferred pronouns, and we're getting a whole bunch of people on. We have about 270 people that registered for this today, so we're getting people on here. So if you give us a little bit of time, yep. Right, so what we're doing is people are joining on, and Eileen, we can tell people to change their names and.
Absolutely. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see folks here. We'll be getting started shortly, but while you're coming on, if you're interested, you're encouraged to rename yourself so that people can see your name, your preferred pronouns. If you'd like to indicate what city, township, ward you're from, please feel free to let folks know that. And to do that, there are 3 dots on your little square. And you can click on those little 3 dots and it will give you an option to rename if you're so interested. And we still have a lot of people coming on, folks, so it might take a few minutes when there's so many people. It takes a little while for the Zoom room to populate, so we'll keep tracking that and we will get started very soon.
You can scroll, see who's in the community today, and make some private messages and say hi to friends and neighbors. A lot of people of the community here tonight. We're really grateful that you all came out.
It is true that all of the information does not fit into the namespace that you can see across there, but you know, it's still okay.
That's true, Harvey. Sorry about that.
Should be.
Okay, yeah, you can do your name, and then, oh, look, Deborah Green, all these people on here. It's amazing. Guys, you really brought out the people. You're Miss Arianne, Ellie, and Hugo really brought out people. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yep, really beautiful. Look at that.
This was on the Temple Beth Emeth monthly calendar with the link, and it sounded interesting, so I kind of just showed up.
That's great. It's great. It's so wonderful.
That's why I think people from Temple Beth Emeth are here.
Yeah, well, it's part of the social action. It's one of the collaborators. Yep, absolutely. Yep. So real. Great. We'll get, as people are jumping on, we see that, and as people are coming on, please feel free to rename yourself. You can put your preferred pronouns, and or you can also put where you're from, what city, what township, the ward you're in. It'd be great for other candidates to know also who's in the room today. I think we're really amazed at the response. We had about 270, as we said. It's probably a little bit less because my husband registered a couple of times because we had challenges. But other than that, we have quite a few. We had about 270 people or so registered. So we're really thrilled. I know they're still coming on. So I
Yeah,
mean, right.
They are.
Right. So we'll just talk. So if you can be patient, it's 7:04. I think we'll probably start in about 1 or 2 minutes, Eileen. What do you think?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, you decide, because you guys are managing the Zoom room, so you're
Yes,
gonna
indeed.
know.
So we are at, what are we at? One still 1:37, but I think we'll get started because we never want to punish the punctual. Maybe
And 137 is quite nice.
yes, it is very nice, very nice. So yes, so I will spotlight myself and moment. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful for that so many of you are here. My name is Eileen Freed. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor. And we're so delighted to welcome you to this candidate forum, which is co-sponsored by the Federation's Jewish Community Relations Committee, Ben the Ark, and the Social Action Committee of Temple Beth Emeth. We look forward to providing more opportunities like this in the weeks and months ahead. I think that it's quite obvious that the interest in this race is very high, and we're so grateful that so many of you are interested to find out about our candidates and make a good decision when they go to the voting box. In the interest in knowing more about folks, we've been encouraging people, if they wish, to rename themselves. You can put your first name. If you want to put your city or your preferred pronouns, you can do that. There's a little blue box. It's got 3 dots, kind of the blue box on your image. And if you click on those 3 dots, it'll have it say rename, and you can go in and put something in there like we've suggested, your name, your pronouns, your preferred pronouns, and where you live, where you vote. So my job is just to give a few technical details. So we've arranged for closed captioning to be available at this meeting. So if you are not seeing the closed captioning, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a little box that says CC or closed caption, and you can click on that and you can activate or inactivate the closed captioning. So please feel free to do that. I'm also reminding you that we're keeping everybody on mute. We're doing that remotely, but especially if you're calling in by phone, or if maybe somehow you accidentally unmute yourself, please just try to keep an eye that you are muted. It'll avoid feedback and allow us to hear our candidates. Shortly after I do my introduction, we will make sure that the chats are only seen by the meeting host for this meeting. We don't want to have people distracted by conversations. But you will be able to send a chat to the moderator and the meeting host. Later in the programs, we'll be taking questions, and you're welcome to send your questions at any time. The moderators will select the questions at the appropriate time, and we apologize because there are so many of you, we will not be able to get to all of your questions. I'm also reminding everybody, or letting everybody know, that this evening's event is being recorded. So if you have technical difficulties on your end, we will be sharing this recording, and you'll be able to hear the event in its entirety. And finally, we just want to acknowledge that with Zoom, as with any technology, especially for folks who are still new to Zoom production, we may experience glitches. I think things are going to go really smoothly, but we appreciate your patience, and we thank you for being here. And now I'm delighted to turn this meeting over to Decky Alexander.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. You said Zoom over in the script, but here, my name is Decky Alexander, everyone, and thanks so much for coming. I think if you haven't heard, we have around 270 people that registered for this event, so it really points out to the significance of this particular position and this particular forum. So we're really grateful. I am here today in my role as a board member of the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor and chair of its nascent Jewish Community Relations Committee, also known as the JCRC. And I'm one of the co-hosts of this forum. There are hundreds of JCRCs all across the country, which operate distinctively and based on the community in which they live and breathe. So in our community, so if people can mute themselves, that'd be great too.
I thought it was more complicated. Thank you.
Okay, in our community, our guiding principles crafted through Jewish community table conversations in homes across the county. And here's our guiding principles really quickly of the JCRC, because we want you to know a little bit about one of the groups that's hosting this. Our intent is to foster and build collaborative relationships with other faith, ethnic, and cultural communities, like many of the people on this Zoom tonight. Be visible and present in the greater community during times of crisis and on vital social issues. That's our time now. Be intentionally actively involved in key issues impacting the Jewish community and the community at large, also why we're here today. And to educate on relevant and local and global issues. That is the essence of our forum today. So part convener, part connector, part collaborator, we hope our JCRC, whether it's through our biweekly newsletter or dialogues on pressing issues or civic collaborations, become a really inclusive community relationship building entity. We're so grateful you're here. Sonya?
Hi, thank you so much to our three candidates for being with us tonight, and to our co-sponsors, and to all of you in attendance. My name is Sonya Lewis, and I'm a member of the Temple Beth Emeth, a member of Temple Beth Emeth in Ann Arbor, and I'm representing our congregation's Civic Engagement Committee, which is a subcommittee of our Social Action Committee. Our Civic Engagement Committee has been focused on educating and activating voters, both within our community and beyond. Earlier this year, we were delighted to find that 99% of our congregation's eligible voters are indeed registered to vote. Our work has now turned to ensuring that everyone is equipped with the knowledge and tools necessary to vote safely, particularly focusing on accessing and utilizing the option to vote absentee. Civic participation through voting is an American right, as well as a fundamental Jewish value. In fact, our Jewish texts teach us that, quote, a ruler is not to be appointed unless the community is first consulted. We are thrilled that even in the midst of this pandemic, technology allows us to consult with our wider community through this candidate forum. As we heed the call that demands justice, justice, you shall pursue, we are delighted to have the opportunity to co-host this forum and to learn more about the three candidates who aspire to directly impact the administration of justice as our next county prosecutor. Thank you.
Hi, I think I'm next. My name is Molly Kleinman, and I'm a volunteer with Bend the Arc Ann Arbor. Bend the Arc Jewish Action is a national progressive Jewish organization that is fighting for justice and equality for all. It has local chapters, which are called moral minions, all over the country. Our minion here in Ann Arbor was started around 2 years ago. And in the last 2 years, we've participated in protests and organizing around immigrant rights and criminal justice reform. And we've also organized a series of social justice play dates where families and kids come together to participate in a service project while also playing and learning. You can find the national organization at bendthearc.us and our local minion on Facebook as Bend the Arc Ann Arbor. And now I think I'm going to hand it over to Kayla.
All right, now on to the forum. So we are so thrilled to provide the three individuals running for county prosecutor, Hugo Mack, Arianne Slay, and Eli Savit. My name is Kayla Capin, and I'm the Jewish Communal Leadership Program intern at Federation this summer.
And I'm Decky Alexander, Federation board member and director professor at Eastern Michigan University. So each candidate will have, and we want to make sure the candidates hear this, have 3 minutes to introduce themselves, give some background and some philosophy. Following that, we have curated questions with community input through the networks of these organizations. Each candidate will then give me 3 minutes to answer each of these questions. And then once again, as Eleen said earlier, time permits, we will take questions from our 270 plus people on this particular Zoom call in the chat. So if you have a question, please put it in the chat and our host will moderate it. Those questions not answered will be shared with the candidates to follow up on as well.
And to ensure fairness, we're going to alter which candidate is able to respond first, second, and third to each question. So for example, everyone will have 2 chances to respond to a question first. And finally, as requested, we will note when the candidate has 30 seconds of time left. Here we go. So please introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes. And Mr. Mack, if you will please go first.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be able to be here. My name is Hugo Mack, and I'm running for prosecutor because I believe in restorative justice. I believe that people are better off together than they are apart. And contrary to the current administration, this administration, should I be fortunate enough to be elected, is going to be based on fairness and humanity. You know, when I grew up in Ann Arbor, many things happened that I saw. One of the things that happened was in April of 1968, when I was in 7th grade at Forsyth Junior High School. That was when Dr. King was assassinated. That was a seminal moment in my life. I was proud to go through Ann Arbor Public Schools and graduate in 1973 from Ann Arbor Pioneer and receive the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award. But let me tell you, on my road there, even as a youth, I remember certain things. I remember seeing and reading about the Freedom Summer in 1964, where people of conscience and people of character joined together. A lot of our Jewish brothers and sisters were there. In 1964, there were 3 men, Mr. Schwerner, Mr. Goodman, and Mr. Cheney, who gave their lives for the advancement of African American people. I have always felt a kinship and a closeness in understanding the struggle. Mr. Schwerner and Mr. Goodman happen to be Jewish. So when I see these sorts of things and I see the need for collaboration for people who have had a common struggle, a common heritage of disenfranchisement and discrimination, it makes me all the more enlightened. It makes me all the more envisioned to want to be the county prosecutor. So for me, a product of the Ann Arbor Public Schools, as I said, the University of Michigan and the University of Toledo College of Law. So my main focus, my main goal when I was a public defender for 12 years and 2 of those years as chief assistant public defender was to bring justice and wholeness to people who could not protect and defend themselves. So obviously there was racial discrimination, obviously there was sexual discrimination, obviously there was class discrimination, but I also found Jewish and other religious people discrimination. Because what I found is that even growing up in a city that is supposedly as progressive as Ann Arbor, I found myself around people of privilege who I thought were my friends, and then making ethnic racial jokes and humors. And I came to realize that while they were talking about these people, these citizens in front of me, they would be probably talking about me when I wasn't present. So my goal is to bring a coalition of people together from the community, because we are all better with restorative justice working together than we are apart. And so I'm asking for all my brothers and sisters in all communities, in the Jewish community, to join with me, because we're going to be able to do this together. Hillary Clinton was right. It does take a village. We cannot bring the community safe by just being segmented. So that's why I'm so grateful to be here. I look forward to take part in this, because it's going to be a shadow of what's going to happen come January 2021.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much. Arianne.
Thank you, and thank you so much for hosting this forum this evening. I really appreciate it, and as often as we are all Zooming for work and to communicate with our families and friends, taking time out to do this just one more time today, it means a lot. This is a very important election, and I'm here tonight to share with you my philosophy about being the Washtenaw County prosecutor and asking for your support on August 4th, if not before. But a little bit about myself. I grew up right here in Washtenaw County in Ann Arbor in the 4th Ward. My mom actually still lives there today. I went all through Ann Arbor Public Schools, and I am a Michigan State grad twice over for undergrad and for law school. And when coming out of law school, I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor, but here's a little secret. I actually started with the dream of being a public defender. And so I interned with the public defender's office as a law student. But I knew that if I wanted to make systemic change in our community, that I needed to intervene earlier on in the criminal justice system. Being a public defender doesn't always afford you the opportunity to stop an injustice before it continues. Being a prosecutor gives you the opportunity to see if we've done something wrong, if the police have done something wrong, if a charge should be levied or not levied. And that makes a difference. Timing and experience can be everything. So I will tell you, I waited 3 years to work in the county prosecutor's office. And during that time, I worked at Community Corrections. I saw Ms. Bergman on. I remember she was on our advisory board when I was a brand new person. It's nice to see you. And I will tell you, Community Corrections, I was a program coordinator. I worked with our offender population, making sure that they had the services that they needed. So when they returned to our community, they had the scaffolding and the services, being for mental health or substance abuse or domestic violence. But when I started at the county prosecutor's office, I found myself there for almost 9 years. And during that time, I learned an awful lot. I spent 6.5 years as your lead domestic violence prosecutor, where I also prosecuted sexual assault cases. But for the last 3 years, which is why it brings me to this role today, I have been effecting criminal justice reform right here in Washtenaw County. I've started a diversion and deflection program, something that my opponents have talked about and read about, but I've actually been doing them for a few years. They're built on the principles of restorative justice, and I hope we have the opportunity to talk about these tonight. I'm looking forward to all of your questions. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Arianne. Thank you so much. All right, and Ellie.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for putting on this forum. It is great to see such an incredible amount of interest in what is really a crucial race for our community. So thanks to everybody for being here virtually tonight, and thanks for putting this on. I'm looking forward to this discussion and talking about my positions and my plans for the office. I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself. I grew up here in Ann Arbor, actually in the Jewish community. I saw my parents, I think, on the chat, so hi there, Mom and Dad. Went to the Hebrew Day School for elementary school, Tappan Middle School, then Pioneer High School. I went to college over on the west side of the state at Kalamazoo College, and before I was a lawyer, I was actually a public school U.S. history teacher. I taught 8th grade U.S. history, special education, and general education classes, and you know, that experience really informs a lot of the changes that I want to bring to the criminal justice system, and particularly around ending the school to prison pipeline. I then came back to U of M for law school, started my career out in private practice, where among other things, I represented criminal defendants, victims of domestic violence and spousal abuse, folks in immigration proceedings, kids with disabilities, victims of consumer fraud, the whole gamut. And then I had the tremendous opportunity to work for Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the US Supreme Court. And after that, I decided to come home. Decided to leave DC and move back to Ann Arbor, and I accepted a job as the senior legal counsel at the city of Detroit, where, among other things, I lead our criminal justice reform work, and I also oversee our public interest litigation program, which involves suing bad corporate actors, banks, and slumlords who are maintaining homes in dilapidated conditions and giving kids lead poisoning. We're suing the opioid industry for the damage that they've caused to our community, and we recently wrapped up the right to literacy lawsuit, which is the first case of its kind in the country, where we obtained a ruling and subsequently a settlement with the governor that vindicates the right to learn how to read and write under the US Constitution. And so I've been doing all that, and I decided to run for prosecutor. And I decided to run for prosecutor in my home community because I have seen both here in Washtenaw County and nationally throughout my career that the criminal justice system is at the center of so much injustice and inequity in our society. For decades, we have been living in the era of mass incarceration, racially inequitable justice system, and it doesn't stop when you leave jail or prison. The lasting effects of criminal conviction can hold people back from getting housing, from getting jobs, from maintaining their education, and that is precisely the system that I'm running to transform, running to change, and I'm looking forward to discussing my ideas about a new day in the prosecutor's office and how we can build a model criminal justice system here in Washtenaw County that turns the page on the era of mass incarceration and that we can be proud of.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm unmuting myself. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ellie. And thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. And working within the time and working within this particular medium, we're really grateful to have you up close and personal. So we have questions, and we will sort of lay out the order of who's going to sort of speak first, and it will be different, as Kayla said, each question will have a different respondent that starts first, or candidate that starts first. All right, so our first question, Mr. Mack, you will start, and if necessary, we can repeat that particular question. And here is question number 1. And once again, for people coming on, these were curated by all of our community organizations and networks. Change can be slow and hard. How will you work to get judges, defense attorneys, law enforcement, and other actors in the criminal justice system to engage with you to create reforms? I'll repeat it one more time. Change can be slow and hard. So how will you work to get judges, defense attorneys, law enforcement, and other actors in the criminal justice system to engage with you to create reforms? Mr. Mack.
Well, first of all, in terms of creating diversion programs, it's one thing to say you created a program. It's another thing to say you're going to be effective in enforcing it. There's a difference. So there is no advantage in saying I created a diversion program. Practice and experience are the key. Now, in terms of me, the thing that we need to do first and foremost, let's take a look at some issues that plague our community. One is the situation of communities with the police. And I think this is something we can no longer afford to try to pretend. The other thing is we need to quit pretending that we are going to be colorblind when in fact American society is not based on that. We need to be color brave. So how do I do it? First of all, electing me become your next prosecutor sets a tone that we have a minister of justice. Unlike the current situation, my administration is not about winning, it is about justice. Whenever you hear prosecutor's office or former prosecutors brag about the conviction rate, that shows what we need to change. That's got to come from the top down, not the bottom up. So the first thing, as a minister of justice, you tell police officers, we have a history of systemic racism in this country and policing. I tell police officers, first of all, I will never allow a good cop to be crucified or a bad cop to be lionized. Because you wear a gun and carry a badge, you have a special responsibility, and you've got to do more than the average citizen. So there's going to be a partnership. Unlike the current situation and those spawned in it, that's not a friendship. That's the problem right now. Old connections, wanting to go back and restart things in a failed policy. So first of all, the prosecutor is going to be a minister of justice, a minister of all and fairness at all. Second of all, in terms of criminal defense attorneys, I will say we are not going to have any prosecutorial misconduct that I'm aware of that will condone. There's going to be fair charging. There's not going to be overcharging. There's not going to be railroading. In terms of cash bail, it is a fallacy to say that a prosecutor will control cash bail. Cash bail is not controlled by the prosecutor. It is controlled by the court. Now, what I will offer is, in terms of disparity, in terms of cash bail, I will support legislative enactment of statutes that have a hybrid cash bail risk assessment value, because we don't want poor people to be put in jail waiting trial when they don't have the money to get out. That is a discrimination against them. They have jobs, they have families, they are still members of the community. So I don't want anybody excessively in jail waiting to trial because they're poor.
30 seconds.
So those are two issues we're going to deal with right away. The administration of justice, as me as the minister of justice, addressing the police and addressing the poor. We're also going to address racial disparity in terms of, I want to know if people are being disrespected and underprotected in various communities. I can do that as a prosecutor, as a gatekeeper. I'm uniquely qualified to do that. Once again, a new administration, not something tied to the old, and certainly not idealistic, but based in pragmatism. That's how we're going to make life better for everybody in Washtenaw County when I'm your next prosecutor.
Time. Thank you. And Ms.
Sorry
Slay.
about that, I'm on mute. Arianne, you're next, and the questions are actually in the chat if you need to have them restated. Arianne, do you need me to restate the question?
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Well, this is a very powerful question. This is change at work, and how do we actually bring forth change? I can tell you that what I bring to you is experience and change and culture. As the senior assistant city attorney in Ann Arbor, I'm also the courtroom prosecutor for the 15th District Court. And those are relationships that I have worked on within the court system to bring forth these changes. And I'll give you a good example. When I first started, I wanted to bring a diversion program into the courtroom. And that looked like individuals who had been charged with a crime. We looked for alternatives, not just to incarceration, but also alternatives to fines and costs and sanctions and dispositions on cases that included victim and offender conferencing and finding resolutions that didn't necessarily mean a criminal conviction, but there was some atonement and accountability for the actions that they had taken. I can tell you the defense bar was slightly shocked when I started making these suggestions and recommendations and looking at creative resolutions. But now it is wildly successful, and the defense bar expects it when they come into court. And they can come in because I've created a culture where we're looking at true rehabilitation and restoration, and we're not looking at a punitive action or just to get a conviction. And so when the defense bar comes in, they bring in their client. We now have a very candid and open relationship about what it is that's going to be best for their client and best for the community. And sometimes it's mental health services, sometimes it's substance abuse services, or working with one of our community partners for housing or even education access. It's been fantastically successful. But prior to that, I also started a high-risk domestic violence team where we met with all the law enforcement officers in the county and the judges and the defense attorneys, and we looked at trends and safeties in our own homes. And that was wildly successful, and that actually still continues today, even though I've left the domestic violence team almost 5 years ago. In addition to that, I provide still training for the police. So 10 years ago or so, I realized that the police were not doing everything that I feel that they should when they were using trauma-informed approaches, or when they are using different investigative techniques that I considered poor practice. And I used to send an angry email, but I realized if I wanted to effectuate true change, I needed to get in the fray. So I became a certified police instructor and teach at our academy.
30 seconds.
In the future, I will work to bring this change about using transparency to build public trust. As a senior assistant city attorney, I also support the Civilian Oversight Committee, the ICPOC for the Ann Arbor Police Department. And I believe that that is a group that should be present for every single one of our law enforcement agencies, so they are holding everyone accountable. And I will support advisory boards for the prosecutor's office as well. It is true that when we work together, and that collaborative spirit is actually how we make change. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ellie.
So I appreciate the question, but I actually want to broaden it a little bit. I realize the question was about how we will work with folks that are in the criminal justice system, judges, defense attorneys, law enforcement, and the like, to bring about change. But I want to broaden it because I think one of the main problems that we have had in this community for far too long is that the criminal justice system, and especially the prosecutor's office, too often sits behind closed doors and is not engaged or engaging with the community. And it's not just about the criminal justice system doing things on its own. We need community buy-in. The justice system only has as much legitimacy as people believe in it. And if we want to partner with organizations to, divert people out into community-based mentorship programs and, intervention programs when they get in trouble, we need to have community buy-in, and we need to be working with the community. So let me tell you how I started my campaign. I did not start my campaign the traditional way by, going and asking for permission to run from law enforcement or from the current prosecutor. Part of that was because I intended to challenge the current prosecutor until he retired. But I started sitting around the table with activists, with community leaders. I remember sitting in a windowless conference room in Ypsilanti with a bunch of folks who had felt wronged by the justice system over the past couple decades, and we're looking for change, and we're looking for a challenger. And we sat together and we worked together, and I heard about experiences that folks had had in the justice system, and we came up with a plan for how we could change things. Then, before I announced my candidacy, I met with judges. I met with members of the public defender's office. I met with the criminal defense bar, and I listened. And I said, look, what do you need to see changed? What is going on wrong in the justice system? What are we doing right? What do you think needs to happen? And only then, after I talked to a variety of stakeholders and started it grounded in the community, did I announce my candidacy. And that's what I'm going to continue to do as prosecutor. We need to work with all the actors in the justice system, but we can't just do things alone. We need to be working with the community. We need to be working with the community members and the activists and the folks who the criminal justice system is affecting. There's an old saying, nothing about us without us. But for far too long, the criminal justice system has not abided by that. Now, in terms of how you build coalitions, people come to this work from a variety of different perspectives, but there are areas of overlap. One of the things I'm proudest of is over the last year, I've been working at the city of Detroit to get through a package of bills to expunge old criminal records. And in that, I've worked with the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, a Republican who I don't agree on virtually anything else, but we're able to find common ground on these issues. There was an article in the Detroit News, editorial, very conservative publication today, about the need for criminal justice reform and jail reform and prison reform. We can find common ground, but we need to build these coalitions, we need to talk, and we need to keep the community centered whenever we're doing so.
Thank you, Ellie, and thanks everyone. All right, Kayla's gonna take the next question and I'll be the timer. Okay, thank you so much.
All right. In your respective legal careers, what steps have you taken to address systemic racism, specifically as it relates to mass incarceration? And I'll repeat it. In your legal career, what steps have you taken to address systemic racism, specifically as it relates to mass incarceration? And Ms. Slay, you will be starting.
Thank you. So in my career, starting the diversion and deflection programs has, excuse me, probably been the most effective at addressing mass incarceration. I had the opportunity after leaving the county prosecutor's office to have the autonomy to start my own programs and own reforms. What I had seen in the justice system is that I was seeing the same people over and over again. When I was a young prosecutor, it might be for a retail fraud or a low-level larceny or a drug case. And they weren't getting the services or the scaffolding that they needed. We were not working together as a community. Fast forward 10 years, 12 years, and I was starting to see the same people, but they were there on more violent offenses and more serious charges. And you couldn't help but wonder where we had let them down. They were now more likely to serve jail time, be away from their families, and that reverberates as an issue throughout our community. In Washtenaw County, we have about 70% of our inmate population are Black men, when they make up less than 7% of our population right here in Washtenaw County. We were doing something wrong at that time. So I looked for opportunities and avenues that we could address not just mass incarceration, but just alternatives to incarceration in general. So starting the diversion program, and diversion means that we're not charging you, we will charge you with a crime, but we are not sticking to the conviction. We're allowing you to work through a community program, work with all of our community partners from Home and Vision, from Dawn Farm or the Shelter Association, Washtenaw Literacy, you name it. If you can be involved, we will want you to be part of that program. And that's what I've been doing for the city of Ann Arbor. I also use the deflection program. So that's when I'm reviewing a case that the police have submitted and looking at whether charges are appropriate or not, if we can come up with a community remedy that brings the atonement and accountability. But I think the most important thing that I've done outside of starting those two programs is to look at police training. Police are our gateway into the criminal justice system. They are the ones who are requesting formal charges. How they handle a case directly impacts how, and if the prosecutor's office even sees it. And if they don't see it, then there's not going to be incarceration. So like I said, 10 years ago, I became a advisor to the police in the sense that I'm teaching at the police academy. So I teach in the subjects of trauma-informed interviewing. We just started working into new implicit bias training into domestic violence and strangulation and homicide school. There are opportunities to promote such things like community policing and making sure our police are held accountable. Now, the training is great, but training without accountability is for naught. So we do need to make sure that our policies around the county are such. Now, as my role as a city assistant city attorney in Ann Arbor, I've been working with the Ann Arbor Police Department to create new policies to make sure that there is accountability in the practices in which we serve.
Thanks, Arianne. Thank you so much. Beautiful. All right, thank you. All right, Ellie, you're second.
Sure. So, I come to this work from a civil rights perspective, and I can talk about the civil rights cases I've worked on. I've litigated prisoner rights suits, working with organizations like the ACLU. I mentioned in my opening the right to literacy lawsuit, which we recently won in the city of Detroit. And you want to talk about systemic racism? I encourage anybody to go into a Detroit school and to see the disaster that has unfolded, and it is a disaster that was promulgated by a state takeover of a school system in 85% Black city, and you've seen the buildings crumbling, the floors falling out from under the education system, both literally and figuratively in a lot of cases, and kids being denied their access to learn. Does that relate to mass incarceration? Absolutely. Because the best thing that we can do to ensure that people don't end up in prison is to invest in them early, to invest in education, to invest in people at the outset. But I also want to talk about my criminal justice reform work, and I mentioned this in my last answer. But the expungement work that we've been doing is really transformative. And mass incarceration is not just about what happens when somebody is behind bars. In Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, she made the case that we have recreated the same caste system that we saw in the Jim Crow South because of our system of mass incarceration. Because even after you are released from jail or released from prison, a felony record or a criminal record can hold you back from opportunities to get a job, to get housing, to have the same opportunities as those without a criminal record. And because we are living with a criminal justice system that is through and through infected by systemic racism, that has the effect of holding Black people back and recreating that two-tier racist system that we saw in the Jim Crow South. So we've been working hard at the city of Detroit, and I'm pleased to have worked on this legislation over the past year to give hundreds of thousands of Michiganders an opportunity to expunge their old criminal records and to change the law to allow them to do so. And I'll tell you, this has gotten a lot of pushback from, among other things, the Prosecutors Association of Michigan, and we've gotten a good bill through, but it's been watered down in some respects. But at the end of the day, this legislation is going to give people an opportunity when they've stayed out of trouble for years to get their life back on track and to no longer have to deal with the stigma that comes from mass incarceration, with the stigma that comes from a criminal record. It is transformative. You go to some of these expungement fairs that we run in the city of Detroit, and I've been pleased to work on them. And you hear people talking about, there was one gentleman that had been convicted 30 years ago for a crime, and he wanted to become a nurse. And because of that 30-year-old conviction on his record, he was unable to. With this change legislation, he's going to be able to get a fresh start, to continue his education, and to serve the community. And that's something addressing the vestiges and the cascading consequences of mass incarceration that I'm tremendously proud to have worked on in my career.
All right. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you. All right.
Mr. Mack?
Well, first of all, can somebody hold up a 30-second sign for Ellie so we can see it? Okay, so he doesn't run over.
I'll be louder, Ellie. That's my fault. I'm sorry. I'll be louder. I was trying to not be here. I apologize.
Yes, okay, well, okay, Ellie, I know it's unintentional, right? Okay, all right. Look, so first of all, let me explain something to you. There is no substitute for experience. When we talk about addressing injustice, there is no substitute for defending over 800 victims of domestic violence. And furthermore, when we talk about 15th District Court, 15th District Court is not 14th District Court. 15th District Court is not the Washtenaw County Circuit Court. So programs of diversion and divestiture and what have you, that local in a 15th District Court may not be applicable in all courts. So you need somebody that can bridge that gap. Now, secondly, when we talk about addressing racism and problems, when somebody talks about, well, the police need to be more trained, or I've got experience training police, well, it's not about training the police. It's about accountability for police. You see, because we always have this discussion about they need more sensitivity training. They need, to understand more issues and view roots, you see what I'm saying? Or watch some Alec Haley movie or something like this. You see, I don't believe in that, because I believe that a good cop is not afraid of accountability, but a bad cop is terrorized by it. So in terms of me, What I'm going to do, what I'm saying is that we can have all the training we want, but if you give a pass, a wink and a nod, like this current prosecutor's office has done with a friendship to police, it is all for naught. So let me be real clear here. In terms of expanding programs, in terms of understanding, I know what it's like to talk to people in a urine stinking cell, all right, at Washtenaw County Jail. I know what it's like to go and interview people in what people call quote unquote bad neighborhoods. I know what it's like to fight systemic racism, even in a jury itself, fighting white privilege primarily with people who've never had any contact with black folks other than what they see on TV, all right, or some kind of stereotype. So it involves electing a prosecutor who is brave enough to make us not only live the fallacy of color blindness, but the braveness of being color brave. It takes a lot of character and integrity to be able to do that. It takes a person willing to stand up and say to a returning citizen, I know what you're going through. I've been there, I've done that, I understand. It takes a person who's a prosecutor who can be an example to all people. You are going to be treated fairly with decency and respect. It takes a prosecutor who knows prosecutorial misconduct, not a part of a failed system, talking about reforming it. You can't reform what you've been a part of. So what means to me, what is the most important thing to me, is that people know with me as their prosecutor, they will have a person that's going to call a fair shot. I understand there are communities here that are underprotected and disrespected. When I'm the prosecutor, the message is going to be that that love affair is over. I cannot emphasize that point enough, because particularly for people of color, there is a rampant distrust for the police. It is not up to the community to show they love and respect the police. It is up to the police to show they love and respect the people in the community. So one of the things we got to deal with.
30 seconds.
I'm sorry, 30 seconds?
30 seconds.
One thing I'm going to be very clear of. I support unions, but there is a problem with police organizations and unions which have made it so difficult to hold police accountable because of collective bargaining agreements. So my message to all police is, I don't care if the policy, if the procedure, if somebody's quote unquote trained you from the prosecutor's office that putting your knee on somebody's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds is legal, proper protocol. If choking somebody down is legal, proper protocol. If riding somebody's horse like a Brahma mule, a bull, is legal in police protocol. You hurt one of my citizens, I don't care if you're wearing a badge or not, I'm going to hold you accountable. That's the way I'm going to deal with police and the systemic charging and overcharging and racism in Washtenaw County.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. We got a couple more questions here. And this one, just a little bit of a warning. It's a little bit longer. It gives you some context, so we'll probably have to say it again, and then we'll also put in the chat. So talking about groups, as Mr. Mack addressed earlier. So parts of the Jewish community have a history and habit of relying on law enforcement for security due to the specific threats we face from anti-Semitism. For example, the Jewish Community Center of Ann Arbor, which is home to both the Early Childhood Center and the Hebrew Day School, has a full-time armed guard who is also former military. You will find similar guards at JCCs across the country. However, if it wasn't clear before, recent events across the country and the Black Lives Matter movement have made it clear that the presence of police and armed security does not make all members of our community safer. Here's the question. What do you see as the prosecutor's role in imagining or reimagining safety in ways that can truly keep us all safe? I'll repeat the last part again. So what do you see as the prosecutor's role in imagining or reimagining safety in ways that can truly keep us all safe? And our first person to respond is Ellie.
So it's a great question. And, you know, I'm often asked, because I'm running very forthrightly on a reform platform. Well, what about public safety? You know, what are you going to do about public safety? And I think the idea that public safety and criminal justice reform are at odds with each other is a false one. We can have both reform and build a fair and more equitable system and increase public safety. And from the prosecutor's office, there needs to be a leader that is committed to doing things differently. And let me talk a little bit about what I mean. When we send children, when we send young people into the juvenile detention center, when we criminalize youthful mistakes, the data shows us, and this is a decade-long intensive economic study, that not only does that fail to rehabilitate, that criminalizing childhood mistakes actually makes us far less safe. When you send a kid to a juvenile justice center, a juvenile detention center, when you incarcerate a child, it makes it more likely that they are going to commit a crime again. So what does work? Brings me back to one of my previous points. What works is community-based interventions, especially for young people who are making mistakes and whose brains are still developing. What works for young people is connecting them with mentors, connecting them with engaging programs, giving them adults that care about them and a place to go after school. When I go to prisons and I talk to people that have been involved in the criminal justice system from a young age, and I ask them, what would have made a difference? They tell me to a person, I just felt like there was nobody that cared about me. Now, in other communities, this has been done, and the prosecutor's office can deflect cases and divert cases out and partner with community organizations. And what if instead of sending kids into our juvenile detention center, we partnered with some of the incredible organizations that we already have on the ground here doing work with young people, organizations like My Brother's Keeper, like the Neutral Zone, like Girls on the Run, Educate Youth, great organizations that are doing that. And we said, look, you made a mistake. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you on a plan. We're going to connect you with a program where you're going to continue your education. If it's appropriate, you're a little bit older, maybe you'll be on a workforce development program. We're going to connect you with mentorships. We're going to connect you with programs, and that's going to be what the justice system asks of you. This isn't a made-up thing. This has been done in other communities. Other communities, instead of shuffling kids into jail, have seen tremendous results and lower recidivism rates when they connect kids with something as simple as an after-school arts program. So the idea that we have to criminalize and that's the only way to keep our community safe is simply a false one. The data doesn't bear it out, the stories don't bear it out, and we need real change.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, next we have Hugo.
First of all, let me give you a date, then I'm gonna give you a name. March 25th, 1965. The name? Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. The place? Selma, Montgomery. You asked me a question about Jewish citizens, and I'm going to answer directly to my Jewish brothers and sisters. That gentleman stood with Dr. King when many Black pastors and ministers would not. I fully acknowledge and realize the racism that has gone on against my Jewish brothers and sisters from the beginning. I am recoiled at people who say the Holocaust was a hoax. I recoil at people who say that because people have struggled, come back from nothing, that somehow they're automatically people of privilege and should be shunned in the financial industry, in the movie industry, and everywhere else. You asked me about Jewish people. Let me talk again about Jewish people. You speak about the guard at the Jewish Center. I've seen that guard. I've gone there to donate clothes to the great Jewish organization that gives clothes to people coming back from the penitentiary. I've spoken to the people at the center there, the different programs, to help people find housing, for example, to find transportation, for example, to get food, for example. You see, I have been met with nothing but respect and love when I've been around my Jewish brothers and sisters. And that was long before running for county prosecutor. It was when I was a returning citizen myself and needed help. They were there to help me. So for me, as a county prosecutor, you have a person that is in league with our Jewish brothers and sisters, because African Americans and Jewish people have a whole lot in common in this country, a whole lot in common. We still do. A lot of people focus on the Ku Klux Klan and about the atrocities against Black people. They hated Jews just as much and still do to this day. So for me, when you ask me a question relative to my Jewish brothers and sisters, I will not tolerate any kind of a hate crime. I will not tolerate any kind of intimidation against Jewish people because it is unjust. So for me, I must admit, I haven't seen many cases of ethnic intimidation, but I know it goes on. So I'm encouraging everybody, regardless of whether they're Jewish or not. If there's a problem, you've been discriminated against, I know there's places that Cemeteries have been defaced. I know buildings have been spray painted. I've been in those buildings, okay? I've been there. So my answer is this. We are all better off together than apart. Now, I spoke to a group of Black ministers some months back. They said, we've been invisible, okay? We're going to utilize them. But you better believe the great Jewish temples in Washtenaw County are going to be utilized too. A fantastic resource with people of intellect and character, people who know what it's like to be downtrodden, have to fight back from nothing. So I'm counting on support from the Jewish community. I cannot protect and defend everybody without your help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo. All right, Arianne, you're next. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks so much for the question. I would imagine the same fears that one would have knowing that you have to have security to go into your house of worship, much like the fears that I have for my husband and my kids, and we all have our kids every day when they go to school. I grew up in the neighborhood of the JCC right off King George, and there has been a guard there for as long as I can remember. Being safe in our homes, being safe in our houses of worship, and being safe in our community is absolutely paramount. But the question is really, how do we get there? How do we make everyone safer? And I believe the diversion and deflection programs actually work. If we're meeting people where they are to address the root cause as to why they became justice involved, we have an opportunity to steer them away from further crimes down the road. And that may look like community mental health or working with a substance abuse provider. The programs that we bring in 15 district court are countywide, and they're open to everyone to participate, regardless of which court their case was initially brought in. I sit on the mental health treatment court team, and part of that treatment board is to make sure that we are addressing everyone's needs and meeting them where they are, and then providing an opportunity for the accountability and atonement. I also believe in the citizen oversight. This is something that I've been very passionate about since I have been in the city of Ann Arbor, working as a liaison to the Independent Police Commission. I also believe in restorative justice. And so that I also think will lead to safety when people are commit a crime and then they have the opportunity to work with somebody that they have harmed, to learn from them and to be part of the community. And it takes all the community partners to do that. I actually think that they're less likely to reoffend. And that's what our statistics and studies show. I believe in holding people accountable. I have been in the county prosecutor's office, and during those times, I did have the opportunity to charge cases with ethnic intimidation as the root cause as to what was going on. Those are very complicated. They're hurtful. They're painful. They're very hard to see. But there is an opportunity to let our community know that that is something that we will not stand for. And holding someone accountable to the highest degree possible that the facts and the law support when it comes to this is paramount. We have to be able to do this. But at the same time, we have to give our community an opportunity to heal when there is wrongdoing. And part of that is by community collaboration and education. So I will be calling on you come 2021 of everyone, of every religious faith, of every skill set. We need you. Criminal justice reform cannot happen without social change co-occurring. They need to be co-produced. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arianne. And thank you for everyone for your thoughtfulness and your candidness in answering that question. We really, I know I speak for many people on this particular Zoom and call. So a couple of things before we get to our next couple of questions and we get to our community questions. Please, people, write their questions in the chat. Some people are sending them to me directly, and though I'm flattered, it's going to be harder for the host to see it. So if you can send it to everyone, that really helpful. So please send questions to everyone, and for ones that send them to me, I'll try to get them to the moderators who are actually looking and reviewing all those questions. And then we have another couple of questions and we'll get to the community. So Kayla, take it away.
All right. So what steps will you take to consistently receive and incorporate community feedback and concerns? And how will you prioritize the voices of those most impacted by your system in the policies and practices? Again, what steps will you take to consistently receive and incorporate community feedback and concerns? And how will you prioritize the voices of those most impacted by your system in your policies and practices? And Mr. Mack, you will go first.
Well, okay, first of all, if I understand the question, it is community feedback, okay? The need for that. Well, first of all, let me explain something to you. I'm a man of the community, you see? My job as your next prosecutor is to be in the community. You know, they always tell folks, never forget where you came from. I never will forget where I came from. I came from a home where my mother raised my brother and myself single-handedly. I came from a home where we had to work extra hard to get just as far as other people. I came from a home who understood racism and prejudice against us. You know, I'm proud to be the second African-American Eagle Scout in Washtenaw County. I remember even in my scouting experience being told that Black kids simply don't get Nature Merit Badge, Conservation of Natural Resources, you see? Simply don't get those sort of things. So for me, it is always a look in the mirror as to who I am and where I am. And furthermore, I'm not going to sell out who and what I am just to get a job. When I say that I'm for the people, when I say I want community feedback, that means I'm out in the streets and I won't be looking for parking change. I'm out in the streets going to communities, the Jewish centers, the Black churches, the mosques, the synagogues, all places, because you're going to see me. The greatest way that you know that I'm accountable to you is for me to be visible. I will have assistants that will do the lion's share of the handling the casework because I'm going to be there with you. Furthermore, we've seen some protests as of late in terms of injustice. Well, let me tell you something. When I'm your prosecutor, you won't have to protest me and pick in my office. It is your office. You have a problem, I work for you. You do not work for me. You come on and talk to me and we'll solve it. So for me, when you talk about how I'm going to impact people that are affected the most, when I had to reintegrate into society, I am one of the people that's affected the most. You see, I never forget where and what I come from. I never forget struggling to get a job, stacking tomato cans at Myers because of a criminal justice involvement. I know what it's like to be shunned and ridiculed and scorned. I know what it's like to be the boot of racism. I know what it's like to be called the N-word by, in the words of Dr. King, some of our sick white brothers within the Michigan Department of Corrections. And I know what it's like to see my Jewish brothers and sisters berated. Grew up hearing terrible, horrible things, all right? Which molded me in knowing that I never want to condone or be a part of that. So for me, you don't have to be Jewish to feel the pain of the Holocaust. You don't have to be Jewish to understand the injustice leveled against those are my people also. So for me, the way I'm going to do it, everybody in, I'm sorry, time?
30 seconds.
Okay, everybody in my office is going to be sensitized, and I want my office to look like the community we represent. Not only diversity of color, but diversity of thought and understanding. So for me, we're going to be there. We're going to be visible. We want you to know that we are there for you. We're not here to control or punish you, but to enhance the community and make it better for all of us. I'm going to need to help my Jewish brothers and sisters. I cannot do it without you.
Thank you, Hugo, so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ms. Slay is next.
Thank you so much. There's a twofold answer to this. I believe in the coordination of services and I believe in community collaboration. So I will start by having an advisory board that will meet on a regular basis, at least quarterly, of leaders in our community. But I'm going to, much like the Independent Police Commission in Ann Arbor, I want to look for people who normally don't have a voice at a table. And that would be somebody who is our kids. They're our future, but they also have, they're great members of our community and they should have a say as to how the prosecutor's office and law enforcement interact with them. Previously justice involved people, and you have to go out and find people who are willing to participate and provide true feedback, unfiltered, be courageous in having those uncomfortable conversations. In addition to that, I'm looking for school teachers and social workers so that we can collaborate on together so that people can share their experiences, not just with the police, but with the prosecutor's office and the justice system as a whole, and how we can best work to start even earlier in someone's life so they don't become justice involved. My husband is a 5th grade school teacher in Ann Arbor, and he often says that if children don't find something to be proud of in academia, they'll find pride in something else. And most oftentimes that's not a good thing. We need to be able to close that pipeline from the school to prison pipeline. They are building prisons at a rate right now based on 3rd grade reading levels. That's not an urban legend, that's true. And making sure that our community has the services and need systems in place to help people and provide that scaffolding so that they're less likely to become justice involved. I will take the opportunity to meet with anyone who is interested in working towards these goals of social and criminal justice reform, just as I have done so in my campaign. Having a diverse group of people as part of my campaign team and having a diverse group of volunteers. And I'm looking for diversity in the office staff too. As many of you know, I was only the 3rd Black female to ever work in the county prosecutor's office. And if I was elected, I'd be the first woman ever. It's about changing perspective and having an opportunity, regardless of your profession in law enforcement, that really is about opportunity and that there's a place for everyone at the table. Earlier on in my campaign, we had a really great fundraiser, and it was celebrating women in law enforcement. And we had a police officer, thank you, who had donated a kidney, and she was honored. And we have another police officer that brought a special victims unit centering on domestic violence and sexual assault to the University of Michigan Police Department, a place that really truly needed that service. Highlighting our strengths, and when we are weak, we find somebody to fill in the gap, someone to step in to help us. I need community support to lead, just as much as you need a strong leader who's willing to listen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Savit?
So the short answer is we've already started. And I talked in response to an earlier answer about how I started this campaign. And the folks at my table from the very start of this campaign have been people who have been affected by the criminal justice system. It's folks like Trisha Duckworth, who has been leading the Black Lives Matter protests in our community for the last month and a half, and has an organization called Survivors Speak, which advocates on behalf of victims of wrongful conviction. Folks like Alex Tomas, a community activist out in West Willow. I've got, at my table, my core sounding board and the core of my campaign, folks that are returning citizens, folks that have been justice involved. And we've also got an incredible amount of young people, high schoolers. I think our youngest intern is in 8th grade. We've got over 120 high school and college students working on this campaign, which is important, not just because the justice system is their future, but because the justice system affects young people the most. And when you talk about giving kids and young people a seat at the table, we've already done that. That's how we're running our campaign. Now, when I'm prosecutor, we are going to have regular meetings. We are going to have advisory groups, and we're not just going to sit behind closed doors in the prosecutor's office. It's important that these meetings, that these forums be out in the community, so people don't have to travel to downtown Ann Arbor to talk to their local prosecutor. So we're going to do all that. But here's the other thing: we can't just be there as prosecutors when we're convening. We can't just expect people to come to us. For far too long, this prosecutor's office has operated behind closed doors. And I'm out in the community. I'm at protests. I'm at neighborhood association meetings. I'm at, community celebrations, back to school events, and the like, back when we had a lot more of these pre-COVID. And what's telling is that, there's representatives from the sheriff's department there. There's representatives from our local elected officials there. There is almost never anybody, really never, from the prosecutor's office there. If you're not present in the community when the community is already gathering, you're not really listening. And more than that, if you're not present and you only see people when they're coming at a meeting that you convened, or when they're coming through the criminal justice system, you are not seeing the full richness of our community. Nobody's having a good day when they're involved in the criminal justice system. Not the victim, not the person being accused of a crime, not witnesses. Nobody wants to be there. We need to be with the community and be out in the community and be open to feedback and to listening when the community is gathering at its best, not just seeing people at their worst. I've been doing that, frankly, since before I started campaigning, and I will continue to be there personally present and listening when I'm prosecutor.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. We got a couple more questions and we have some in the chat. So really quickly, as Eleen said earlier, we're learning how to do the Zoom. So if you want to put something in the chat, a question you want our candidates to answer, please try to send it to Molly Kleinman or Lee Roosevelt. They're there from Bend the Arc and they're curating our questions, and some of the questions that people are asking might be some of the ones that are coming up. But we'll try to get to some of your questions in just a moment. All right, here is our next question, everyone. How's everyone doing? Okay, good, okay. All right, got a couple more, all right. Here we go. And Arianne, you're gonna be answering first for this one. So in many ways, the criminal justice system, both in this country and in Washtenaw County, is actually tremendously unjust. High levels of recidivism, cash bail, sometimes long juvenile sentences, and racial disparities indicate that we are not achieving anything like actual justice, either for offenders or their victims. Our question: what do you see as your role in advocating for laws at the state or local level? Question again: what do you see as your role in advocating for laws at the state or local level?
Thank you. Well, I can tell you that I have experience on both. On a local level, we have a trespass ordinance now in the city of Ann Arbor that I drafted. And it is very similar to the trespass ordinance or trespass statute that's around for the state of Michigan. And the reason why I asked City Council to sponsor a change in our local law was because I saw how the county prosecutor's office was treating a trespass case. They were holding tight to a conviction. Sometimes people were actually spending jail time and being kicked off a business's property when really they just didn't have anywhere to go. They were really struggling and we weren't seeing the humanity behind it. So I started asking if I could prosecute these cases, but we needed an ordinance to be able to do it in Ann Arbor. So I drafted one. It was passed by City Council unanimously. And then that's actually what allowed us to really take hold in our diversion program and make sure that people were getting the services that they need. They may have been trespassed for the night, but what we were doing was giving them an opportunity to work with the shelter association to find stable housing, to work with a mental health provider if they needed to. They were not going to have a criminal conviction at the end of this. They weren't going to owe fines and costs, but they were given resources. So I have been working on a local level in that capacity. As far as the state level, I have been there before. A seat at the table, on behalf of the Prosecutors Association, looking at gun lobbying and language to make sure that victims of domestic violence are safe following conviction for their perpetrators who are trying to purchase firearms. But I think it's also very important to recognize that we have a lot of problems right here at home in Washtenaw County, that we could come in and do something completely wild and off the wall, but we wouldn't be following the proper procedures in our state law or in our court rules. So I do stand with the governor in a lot of her recommendations, actually in all 18 of them, in her pretrial and bail and bond task force that talked about cash bail. That's one of the biggest problems that we have in Washtenaw County today, is that we do not have appropriate laws that allow someone to return to the community. People who are in jail should only be there if they are a danger to the community. And on our current system, you can be released, you should be released on a personal recognizance bond unless you are a danger to the community. There are only 3 things that can hold you by current court rule, which is number 1, that you're charged with murder, number 2, sexual assault 1st degree, or that you are charged with a violent felony and you're already on probation or parole. We need to have something in place to make those changes happen. They need to hear not just the anecdotal evidence, but the entire story from Washtenaw County as to how this is affecting our community, how this is affecting our families, and how this is leading to reverberating issues and problems in our community that affect our children more than anything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arianne. Thank you. All right.
Very much.
All right, Ellie, you have the question? Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I do. Thank you. So it's often said by prosecutors sometimes, oh, we don't make laws, we just enforce them, and that's not true. And anybody that knows how our state works knows that that's not true, because I think that probably the second most powerful lobbying organization in Lansing, next to the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, is the Prosecutors Association of Michigan, which often weighs in, frankly, in a pretty regressive way around criminal justice issues. Prosecutors have a lot of sway. Prosecutors have a voice, because they are the chief law enforcement officer in a county, in getting legislators to move in one direction or another. And I absolutely think that it is the role of a prosecutor to advocate, and advocate forcefully, for the changes that we think reflect our community values. I've already been doing this. You know, I was very pleased to give testimony to the Ypsilanti City Council in support of expanding their anti-discrimination ordinance to prohibit discrimination on the basis of one's past criminal record. And I did so from my perspective as a potential future prosecutor, because I believe that giving people access to housing, giving people access to jobs, giving people access to education are the best things we can be doing to ensure public safety in the long term. I believe, and I've talked about this before, in opportunities for expungement, to give people an opportunity for a fresh start. I've already built these relationships in Lansing. As county prosecutor, I'm going to continue to use them to push the ball forward in the right direction. A lot of mass incarceration is driven not just by the decisions of county prosecutors, but let's be honest, by some of the harsh sentencing laws that we have. Truth in sentencing, which eliminated good time credit in prisons and says, you know, you can't get time off your sentence if you've, you know, been doing everything you're asked for in prison. You have to serve a minimum amount of time on your sentence. That is responsible for the fact that we spend $2 billion a year in this state, 1/5 of our state's general fund budget, on corrections alone. It's not keeping us any safer. It's costing us all money at a time, quite frankly, where we need money for to invest in people and invest in services. And county prosecutors need to stop just being on the side of harsher penalties and harsher laws. And I fully intend to use my voice in Lansing at local levels to ensure that we are bringing about real criminal justice reform, and that we are turning the page on the era of mass incarceration that has failed us for so long.
Time. Thank you very much. Mr. Mack?
Well, first of all, when some people talk about this as a historic election, it is a historic election in many different ways. You have an opportunity to elect the first woman prosecutor. You have an opportunity to elect the first African-American male prosecutor. You have the opportunity to elect, which I believe, perhaps the first Jewish American prosecutor. So there's no one historic marker that is greater than the other. And it would certainly be disingenuous for anybody to assume that we address and confront sexism by changing it from trousers to a skirt. Now, in terms of being a prosecutor, one thing we don't need to do is have a situation or a person posturing as if they can make legislative change just by being a prosecutor. You see, that's a problem because it confuses people. It gives people the wrong impression that if we elect somebody who talks about legislative change, that we put them in office, therefore legislative change is axiomatic. That is not true. I've heard both of my opponents talk about the need to impress the legislative body. That is true. That is an impression. That is not a mandate. And anytime we have anybody or any situation that kind of fuzzies the lines, then we're not serving either the legislature or the role of a county prosecutor. Now, in terms of talking in front of the Ypsilanti City Council, I also spoke in front of the Ypsilanti City Council. But not just from a theoretical point of view. I spoke to the Ypsilanti City Council of having been a returning citizen myself, having paid a debt I do not owe. I know much better than anybody in this race the discrimination faced by people coming back from a criminal justice involvement. So I understand quite well. So now, in terms of the City Council saying that we need to make change on a City Council, that's true. State law trumps City Council law. So when I hear people talk about trying to have influence with the Attorney Prosecutor Attorney Association, you know, with all due respect, my role in there is not as Mr. Smith goes to Washington. My role is understanding who those folks are, and they're not changing. So you see, my role, certainly I will try to advocate for change with them, but I'm going to use the bully pulpit from the county prosecutor's office. from being elected in a once in a millennium opportunity to elect a person who understands the system not only from the outside in, but the inside out. That is very, very crucial. So we talk about legislative change, we've got to use the bully pulpit, but we do not use the prosecuting attorney's office to make legislative change. We do not use the prosecuting attorney's office to circumvent the legislature and the Michigan Supreme Court. That is simply wrong. Idealistic, but wrong and unachievable. So for me, when I'm the next prosecutor, everybody will know we're not going to legislate via charge. We're going to have fair charges.
30 seconds.
Fair charges that are based on the actual facts. Because the reality of it is, we have a disproportionate amount of African-American people, indigenous peoples, that are charged with offenses. I'm challenging every law enforcement officer, as I did in my message to law enforcement. I'm going to be watching very carefully. I'm going to see if you've got a pattern of like stopping black motorists for, let's say, well, there's a turn light that's out, or an improper lane change, if people in Ypsilanti are being stopped and people in Manchester are not. So,
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, on to our last question. So hate crimes of all kinds are on the rise across the country in recent years against Jews and other religions, religious, racial, and ethnic minorities. As a candidate for prosecutor, please describe your experience addressing hate crimes and how you would address these acts as the county's chief law enforcement officer. Again, hate crimes of all kinds are on the rise across the country in recent years against Jews and other religious, racial, and ethnic minorities. As a candidate for prosecutor, please describe your experience addressing hate crimes and how you would address these acts as the county's chief law enforcement officer. And Mr. Savit, you will be going first.
You know, we're living in tremendously troubled times, and it's something that, you know, has affected all of us, and you know, certainly has affected me personally as somebody that grew up in the Jewish faith. When you see the President of the United States encouraging people in Charlottesville chanting "Jew will not replace us," when I do see armed guards at, you know, we talked about the Jewish Community Center, and you know, that's where I went to elementary school. And when we see armed guards there, and we have to look over your shoulder, you know, every time you're entering a place of worship or you're entering a communal gathering space, this imposes real harm on people, not just who are the direct victims of hate crimes, but also on broader communities. And that's why hate crimes are particularly heinous. You know, there's trauma involved, and there, you know, are cascading consequences involved whenever somebody is the victim of a crime. But when you have a hate crime that's perpetrated against somebody, what a person feels that they have been targeted, not just because of, you know, where they were or a happenstance and circumstances, but fundamentally because of who they are. It's, of course, you know, affected the Jewish community. It's affected racial minorities, Black people, our immigrant population, our Muslim brothers and sisters, and of course, you know, they're most on the rise against members of our LGBTQIA+ population. So I'll say a couple things. I do believe that hate crimes need to be treated seriously, because a hate crime fundamentally is not just against an individual. As I said, it imposes trauma and it imposes fear on a whole community of people, and certainly on the victim, who may now fear in the future that they are going to be targeted simply because of who they are. We have had a prosecutor's office, unfortunately, and this is one of the last straws that sort of got me into this race, that hasn't taken hate crimes seriously. There was an incident over at Eastern Michigan University in which a Black doll was hung by a noose from a shower, and it was directed at a Black student. And the prosecutor's office concluded that hate crime charges weren't warranted. They concluded that the victim had been targeted because they were Black, but they said that there was no reasonable fear of being put in harm's way by that lynching imagery. I don't know who in the prosecutor's office needs a history lesson, but to say that lynching imagery does not put somebody who's Black in a reasonable fear of harm given the history in our country is entirely unacceptable. We need to treat this seriously. These are crimes against communities, and I will treat them as such as prosecutor. Decky, did I miss a 30-second warning again? I'm sorry, and Hugo in advance. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to you. Don't blame me.
Everybody's getting more time.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That's a promise. Okay, I'll give you more time. Sorry about that. I'm gonna speak louder. I'm gonna project.
All right, Mr. Mack, you're next.
All right. How do I address it? I address it the way Rabbi Abraham Heschel addressed it with Martin Luther King. I cannot be a good Jew without being a good Christian. I've been to Seders at the Jewish Community Center. I've received clothing and support in my lowest times from the center right there on State Street. I've received compassion and help from people who could turn their back on me and did not. How do I address it? By having skin in the game, you see? Because just like Rabbi Heschel made it clear in 1965, he cannot be a good Jew without being a good Christian. I cannot be a good Christian without being a good Jew. So when you deface a synagogue, you deface me. When you hurl a racial epithet on one of my Jewish brothers and sisters, you hurl a racial epithet against me. When you defame the Star of David, you defame me. I cannot make it any clearer to anybody than that. When I say that I stand for people that are oppressed, that have been done wrong, that have historically been downtrodden, if there was a march in Ann Arbor, the state of Michigan, that I knew of that addressed anti-Semitism, I would be right there. And I know it exists, but it exists primarily in the heart. And I agree with Eli, and probably Arianne, I'm sure she feels the same way too. We have an environment now where hate crimes are on the increase, when we have people making all manner of racial and ethnic discriminatory statements and comments, running people over with cars, you understand? You see? Putting nooses up. I agree. But the way that I'm going to address that is to let people know I am not ashamed to stand with my Jewish brothers and sisters. So when people know that, they have a prosecutor that is not going to cut and run, when they have a prosecutor that will aggressively prosecute anybody trying to put a noose at Eastern Michigan University, anybody caught defacing a synagogue, tearing down cemeteries, they will deal with me harshly. And I don't care if that person is 17 or 70, because you see, you can't always excuse some conduct and say, well, they're having a temper tantrum. Well, they don't know what they're doing. Their brains aren't developed. I don't believe in that. I think the problem in this country is not so much a matter of skin, it's a matter of sin. So when we have a sick mind, we want to heal that mind, but we have to remove that mind and body from harming the rest of us. So when I'm your county prosecutor, you can rest assured, when someone does a hate crime, I will deal with them directly, and I'll make it very clear, we will not only be color conscious in the sense of being color brave in this county, we'll be religious brave and ethnic brave, and we're going to address it with every fiber of my body. That is my sworn promise to all of you, my Jewish brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Hugo. Thank you. Okay, Arianne, thank you.
Well, I think we first need to acknowledge of where hate crimes come from, and they come from a place of fear. And hate crimes have been seen in Washtenaw County since its inception. We are no stranger to them. I've personally prosecuted hate crimes in Washtenaw County, and they have a very damaging effect on a community. I can tell you that we see it not just the fear. We see the fear not just in citizen on citizen, resident on resident, but we also see it sometimes even within a police force. I can tell you that this is a long-standing thing in our community in the United States. I am a granddaughter of a man who was lynched in the lowlands of Kentucky, and he didn't die where they strung him up. They dropped him off at the police station. where he never received medical attention and he died in police custody. I am the niece by marriage to an amazing man named Christopher, who, because of fear, was a victim of a hate crime and was murdered by the police not too far away in Wayne County. Hate crimes need to be held in the highest regard for charging with the facts and the law and taking them to the furthest extent that they possibly can. But what matters after we do that, after we do everything procedurally correct, after we prosecute them, after there's going to be accountability, is that there needs to be community healing. And when I talked earlier about having those community forums where we were all getting together, it's not just to air our grievances or our pats on the back for when things are going well. It's also so that in a time of crisis, we can stand together in unity. In a time of crisis, we can offer help to each other and we can offer explanation. And that's how a community can heal and recover from these situations. Far too often, if you turn on the news on any given night, you will see shooting at this address and someone has died. Small child hit by stray bullets. You can insert these facts on any given night. I feel like we haven't really healed from any of that. It's become, unfortunately, so commonplace that these actions based on fear because of someone is different, that it's okay to just go forward and move about your day, on to the next big and highlighted news. It's damaging. It reverberates into our community and dastardly affects the way that we look at ourselves
30 seconds.
and the way our children look at their future. It is important that we stand united against hate crimes, but we also stand united in our healing. And as your county prosecutor come 2021, I will be at the table with anyone who's willing to join. Thank you.
Thank you, Arianne. And I want to thank everyone for taking time to personalize the question, to be vulnerable in that space. I think I speak for, a lot of us on this particular Zoom that it means a lot. And really grateful for your candor and the thoughtfulness of that particular response and the time it took and the time it might have taken to answer that question. We are at 8:30. There are a couple questions that, or it's actually just one extra question I think we'll ask, but we're going to give a little less time and then we'll wrap up pretty quickly. We'll give 2 minutes, but there's a lot of questions on cash bail and several of you mentioned it. So if people can just stay on for a couple of minutes longer, we'll try to get to this particular question. And then for all the other questions, we'll give a recording to our candidates so they can look at all the other questions that were asked. But a lot of them were answered in prior questions as well. And but this one came up several times, and you mentioned, and all candidates mentioned it as well. So here's the question. All of you mentioned once again the problematic nature of cash bail system. So the ACLU currently has a lawsuit, right, against the state of Michigan regarding cash bail. How would you specifically address cash bail in Washtenaw County? And why don't we start with, I think we start with, is it Hugo first?
My turn?
Yes, we'll start with.
Well, first of all, we address cash bail by realizing the parameters of a prosecutor. It is very dangerous to fudge the line between legislative reality and prosecutorial desire. No prosecutor controls cash bail. The only way any prosecutor can control cash bail is one-dimensional. If you want to eliminate cash bail, don't charge anybody, because once you charge somebody, you bring them in the system. It is the magistrate who determines cash bail, not the prosecutor. Now, tangentially, I can address cash bail by the charge that I file. This is a pledge that I have to the community. My goal is restorative justice. If we can get the lesser charge, for example, let's say it's some kind of an assault case. If an aggravated assault or some other lesser charge can make a person whole, then that's a charge we're going to go with. We're not going to top end people. That does two things. It brings restorative justice to the victim because it satisfies their needs, and it eliminates the need for an elevated analysis of cash bail. That's the way we're going to do this. A fair charge is the best way a prosecutor realistically can address cash bail. The second thing we're going to do is use our bully pulpit. We do not need to eliminate cash bail, because under the 14th Amendment, if you eliminate cash bail for the poor, you must eliminate it for the rich. That makes the disparity even more. You've heard of what's called the dream team. The last thing we need to do with the multimillionaires in Washtenaw County, the fourth richest county in the state, is to give them even more money to make the disparities of criminal defense that much greater. We need to have a hybrid cash bail risk assessment system. I agree with ProPublica. Where if a person cannot post bail, we take a look at, are they a threat to the community? Can we use tethering? Can we use police community involvement? These are things that we will do to realistically, from prosecutor's office, address the cash bail issue.
Thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Hugo. All right, Ellie, you're next, and we have 2 minutes.
Well, I categorically oppose cash bail, and this has been one of the centerpieces of my campaign from the start. It is of course true that it is the magistrate that sets bail, but the prosecutor has a decision whether to seek it. The prosecutor has a decision whether to advocate for it. And with a lot of lower level crimes, the prosecutor holds the ultimate trump card. If somebody is being held in jail on cash bail, and that is not in the interest of justice, remember, they are only there because the prosecutor charged them in the first place. And the prosecutor, can dismiss the case, bring them back on an appearance ticket. There are things the prosecutor can do, and I object to the idea that the prosecutor can do nothing about cash bail. We need to end it. Cash bail is a system in which poor people who are no threat to the community are held in jail simply because they cannot afford to get out, whereas wealthier people who do not pose a threat to the community are able to go free because they are rich. We are using cash bail because it is the way that we've been doing things for 500 years. It is not moral, it is not just, and it is no more acceptable to maintain a fundamentally immoral system than it is to create it in the first place. Now, in terms of public safety, we can hold people that pose a threat to the community without putting a price tag on it. Washington, D.C. has done this. Washington, D.C. got rid of cash bail 28 years ago. And, the crime rate didn't go up, and the number of people skipping trial didn't go up. The federal court system in the Eastern District of Michigan, which encompasses our community, they never use cash bail. And they have the highest appearance rate for defendants coming back of any district court in the country. So we can do that, and I will do everything I can as prosecutor to end the unjust and inequitable system of cash bail. We cannot maintain this any longer. It is morally reprehensible.
All right, Arianne.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, I believe that people should only be in jail if they are a danger to our community. But unfortunately, we in Michigan have not caught up to the laws like they have in Washington, D.C. and in other areas. So we do need to follow the laws that we have. Our bail system right now is categorically and undeniably inherently racist. That's exactly what it is. It is the system that we are working with. This is why I have pledged to be very vocal, and I stand with our governor and her recommendation to make sure that we are changing this and that we are using a different system. We do not have the opportunity to hold everyone who is a danger to the community with our current system. As I said before, you have to be charged with murder. You have to be charged, or sexual assault or rape in the first degree, or that you have committed a violent felony. That's pursuant to court rule. You can't, and there are many instances where that's actually kind of a scary premise, knowing that somebody has come into the Washtenaw County Jail, maybe on a domestic violence charge, and they are looking to hurt their intimate partner or their children. And they've even conveyed it to a sheriff's deputy or somebody who was there or was overheard on the phones. These are opportunities that we need to have some system in place where we can hold people who present a danger to our community. And like I said, unless they're charged with one of those 3 enumerated things, we cannot simply hold them. Another thing, though, that we need to do is to be very cognizant of what we've done in the last 3.5 to 4 months. As our pandemic hit, we went from being at our jail at capacity of over 440 people, running right at the brim every day, to having a population of 150. We need to look at why we were having so many people in jail. As a prosecutor, you have the opportunity to make a recommendation. The prosecutor's office will not be making a recommendation for cast bail for people who do not present a danger to the community, only for those that do. And like I said, I do stand with our governor in making sure that we make these amendments quickly and fairly in our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Arianne, and thank you to everybody here. I don't know if they could do like hands, and I want to thank the candidates really for their time and their candor and their conversation. These are monologues sometimes, not dialogues, and they require a lot of energy and execution to be able to articulate your platforms and policies in this particular medium. And I know for the 200 people that were on here, we are really grateful. This is recorded, so we know that, and we got your approval to do so, so that can be disseminated to a lot of people beyond who couldn't make it to tonight's particular forum. So we're really grateful. So I want to thank on behalf of the Jewish Community Relations Committee, of which I'm a part of, and the chair, Bend the Arc, Temple Beth Emeth Social Action Committee, and Civic Engagement Committee. We really thank you for joining us today. And we're really, once again, willing, thank you that you engage in this format. We know it's difficult and challenging, but I'm sure that a lot of us got to really get an intimate close-up view of you and your policies and platforms today. I also want to thank the Jewish Federation and Jessica Weil and Eleen for DJing and spotlighting, which is really difficult to do in this format. So following today's forum, we're going to be setting up a follow-up to all of those who signed up with all the links to the candidates' websites, as well as information on the organizations, the 3 hosting organizations of this particular forum. Finally, everybody, remember to get your absentee ballot and vote on August 4th. You can go to, there is a Michigan voter registration. We can also send that link out to you, and the Washtenaw County Permanent Absent Voter List registration as well. And we can send those links out to you as well in our follow-up communication. Be safe, everyone. Be well. I want to get all our hosts out here. If we can, all the hosts, we have Molly and Sonya, and we have Lee Roosevelt here, and we want to thank everybody. If anyone else want to say anything else or final thoughts from the candidates and or our hosts and collaborators or Kayla. I'm finding it fascinating, like somebody's in the waiting room now. That's at the end, but that's okay.
They've been there the whole time.
Okay, I'm like, I feel bad. They're there.
I tried to let them in, it didn't work.
Let them in already, for God's sake. Okay, all right, so are there any other final thoughts? All right.
Thank you all so much.
We really
Thank you all again. Really enjoyed the discussion.
So great and really grateful, thoughtful discussion. And we appreciate the community for giving us the questions as well and giving input. So be safe, everyone. Be well, and look for the follow-up email from us with all the candidates' websites. Okay.
Thank you so much. God bless. Stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Decky.